China, land of mist and mystery. It is before sunrise, and the mist hangs heavy over the rice terraces. Yao villagers are already in the rice nurseries, uprooting and bundling seedlings in preparation for that day's planting. The Chinese have been cultivating rice for over 8 centuries. They carry the seedlings in woven buckets to the age-old paddy fields, as it has been done for centuries. The seedlings are laboriously planted one by one in rows in the tiny terraced paddies. In some areas of southern China, there are thousands of tiny terraces from the peak of the mountain to the valley. This afternoon is special, as it is the day before the dragon boat races. Some of the women have come in from the rice terraces to prepare zongzi. The coming celebration stems from the legend of Xi'an, a much-beloved poet in 227 BC, who became so distraught with the government that on the 5th day of the 5th month of the lunar calendar, he threw himself into the river and drowned. The zongzi was thrown into the river by the villagers to keep the fish from eating him. Now it's eaten in remembrance of the great poet. As the villagers finish a long day in the terraces, other preparations are being made, for it is the night before the dragon boat races, and the students from the local school in the village, perched high in the mountains, are performing traditional bonfire dances. The colorful dragon boats are distinctive because of the fierce dragon head signifying strength and vitality that forms the bow of the boat. The nearby Li River is world famous for its dramatic harsh hills. This is a rare view from one of those peaks. The hills are made of limestone, which dissolves in water, eroding away into curious shapes. This surprising landscape surrounds the Li River as it makes its serpentine path. These spectacular scenes are a recurring motif in Chinese painting and brings over 2 million visitors each year, causing a bit of a boat traffic jam. Along the banks of the Li River, and nested amongst the limestone creations, is the modern city of Guilin. In the rainy season, life keeps moving ahead, even under the bombardment of the rains. Gone are the famous bikes of China, replaced by rows of brightly colored motorcycles. The streets hover on the brink of chaos, with the speeding, honking hordes of motorcycles. Family of 4, no problem. Cities are where the ancient and modern collide. Antique sun and moon pagodas, shimmering reflections can be seen nestled amongst the high-rises of eastern Guilin. The Chinese are fond of animals, and the 7-star city park hosts an open monkey area. Atop Yao Mountain, Guiling's highest point is a garden where thousands of prayers are tied to trees by travelers each year. China actively keeps its public open green spaces as it promotes healthy exercise and multi-generational togetherness. This Beijing park near the UIBE campus is filled with a multitude of energetic exercise options. Of course, there was the excitement of the group's first day on campus. A student-guided tour provided an orientation to the classroom and campus facilities.
One of his generals who successfully put down riots in the south. What is sort of special about this vase is the color. If you are familiar with Chinese porcelain pottery, more often you see the color of indigo or white, but this one is red, so it's kind of rare. And also it's triple rooster, with 3 roosters. Rooster is considered a lucky sign in China.
Lucky sign in China.
It's very lucky.
A free day allowed visits to Beijing's famous hutongs, which are the ancient suburbs that, for the most part, have endured the onslaught of modernization. Here is the hutong version of the fast food restaurant. Everywhere you look in the hutong, there are elements of family. During the trip, on most mornings, there are classes that help one gain an insight into the history of China and a perspective on modern China.
About this one? Yes. 水, I mean water.
During the 2,000 years, the ideas of Confucianism changed in the different dynasty. Basically, from one here, another change happened in Han Dynasty, another change happened in Song Dynasty. Yeah, it changed, but.
Our guided tour of the infamous Tiananmen Square, with its monument to the people's heroes, was followed by a visit to the Forbidden City. The imposing Ming Dynasty Gate, where Mao declared the People's Republic of China. The marble carriageway is a central ramp carved with dragons chasing pearls. There is a magnificent 9-dragon screen in the Forbidden City. The dragon is a symbol of power, but it is also symbolic of luck, prayers for rain, and in some cases, longevity. There was a tour of the Beijing Stanford Center and a fascinating lecture on China's economy. The Temple of Heaven is literally the altar of heaven.
Symbolizes what the emperor had. But no other place you can have dragon. Only the places where the emperor had, the emperor's property, you can have dragon.
The temple grounds made for an extraordinary background for pictures of a young Chinese couple, as well as our group. No trip to China would be complete without stopping at the pearl market. It was fascinating to watch the magical string of the pearls into a necklace. It was a short bus ride to the Great Wall that stretches several thousand miles through the heart of China. It was a magnificent but failed attempt by the emperors to keep the Mongolian hordes out. This was one of the few lucky days and decades when the fog settled below the wall. A much closer journey brought us to the Summer Palace, with its many lakes near the center of Beijing. The palace was used by the imperial court to get away from the stifling summer heat in the Forbidden City. The renowned Long Corridor, with its 273 sections, there was time for a group meeting. The 798 Art Zone, a former military factory complex. During the Professional Development Day, we had a chance to access some of the brightest minds in China in our specialty fields.
Now I'm shooting a mixture of commercial work and editorial work.
The Chinese education system, because traditionally there have been many more students wanting to go to college than could attend college, has been extremely competitive and very much focused on a single examination, which students take at the age of 18. That determines whether they'll go to college or not. So that the education system in China is very much focused on acquiring knowledge in order to take that examination. So a lot of students go overseas, and one of the reasons they do go overseas is to try to broaden their minds and be exposed to an education system that tries to inculcate more creative sorts of thinking. And of course, the other reason they want to go overseas is to see other cultures. And so you're having two things going on at the same time, a different educational approach and also an exposure to cultures that they haven't seen before. And I think that all goes together to create a much more creative sort of exploratory mind that comes back from that experience.
A short walk from the hotel after arriving in Xi'an presented this glowing, famous bell tower. The same walk early the next morning presented a new scene of a unique breakfast bar for the passerby. The small goose pagoda erected during the Tang dynasty was built to store religious relics. Moving deeper into the pagoda's grounds, there was a classical Chinese music group made up of local residents with a very young fan. The non-destructive water brush calligraphy enjoyed by young and old. In the Xi'an Muslim quarter, there is the peaceful gardens of the Great Mosque with its stone memorial gateway, traditional entertainment of the shadow puppet show, and the relaxing comfort of a tea tasting.
About 2,000 years ago. At that time, Xi'an was called Chang'an in Tiananmen Square. Now in China, there are about 1,688 all kinds of teas, but which can be classified into three categories: oolong tea, black tea, and green tea, just three kinds of teas.
All this prepares you to run the gauntlet of the narrow walkway through the tiny shops, offering a virtual sea of merchandise. A cooling water show was just what was needed on a hot summer's night.
Also, when the baby was 1 month old, they are going to have 1 month old celebration for the baby. And they put the big table and put several tools, some paint, some paper, some toys, some gun, and some weapons, maybe some kind of different things on the table. Let the baby try to get one. If the baby get a pen or get a paper, that means the baby going to be the high official maybe in the future, because he's very interested into learning.
The group listened attentively outside the Terracotta Museum as the guide related the story on how peasants digging a well in the early 1970s discovered the once brightly colored warriors, numbering over 7,000, stand mute in rows, as they have for the past 2,000 years, standing sentinel over the nearby burial mound for Qi Shu Huan Di, the first emperor of China. Each warrior was individually crafted with its own personality. The evening back in Xi'an brought the opportunity to attend a night at the theater, dining and watching the Tang Dynasty opera, which included the flowing silk ribbon dance. Back in Beijing, in time for a farewell banquet, where stories were told, a few last pictures taken,